Oh, it's good to relax. This is as close as I'm getting to it these days.
Something wrong?
Wrong? Oh, yeah, that's putting it lightly. I'm going nuts here. I've spent so long keeping one step ahead of somebody, I can't believe I've lost them for good. At least when I'm out with you, I usually know where the blaster fire's coming from. Keeps my mind off trouble. Mostly.
The less time you and Trouble spend together, the better.
You've got a marvelously camouflaged sense of humor, you know that? Let's see how easily you brush off your old instincts and catch 40 winks after you've spent 30 years bounty hunting.
If you're not up to something, let me know before it becomes a problem.
Ah, I'm just in a funk. Come on, I think I've had my fill of all this cheering up. You know, you're pretty quick to sniff out an opportunity for profit.
What's your point?
Just an observation. Makes food for thought. I wonder how much more lucrative our little partnership could be if you applied that intuition to something other than bounty hunting.
I'm not opposed to a little moonlighting.
Can't afford to keep all your chips at the same table, am I right? Let me see if I can come up with something that'll play to your strengths, and I'll trust you to recognize a good opportunity when you see one. I've been thinking it over, and I see a lot of room for improvement maximizing your profits. Take catching me, for example. Sure, you got a nice bounty from the Great Hunt, but why stop there? You just need to use a little imagination.
Does this have something to do with your duplicate?
Nothing slips past you, now does it? A few words in the right ears, and you could make a lot of money on poor Tiresias's remains, if you don't mind double-crossing crime lords. Offer the body, see who bites, rob them blind. Couldn't be simpler.
Drum up some interest. If the payoff is worth the risk, I'm in.
See, that's the best part about this little partnership. The scams are a lot less risky when you know you can vaporize anyone in the room. Following you around isn't so bad. You visit the most extravagant locales. Oh, I picked up a little souvenir from the Royal Museum. I thought we could make sure these get put to better use.
You're giving me something worth money?
Gesture of good faith and all that. Figured if I'm stuck here, I might as well lighten the mood. Unless we find a collector, we'll need to fence these. Quick turnaround will forfeit a big cut, but it'll be a nice bonus.
Let's just see the credits.
I'll see what I can do. So, that suggestion I had involving my duplicate? Turns out there are a lot of folks out there who've still got a bone to pick with the late Tiresias Loci. A little friendly competition couldn't hurt our final take. I'm thinking an auction would do the trick.
I'm open to anything that'll boost our profits.
That's just what I wanted to hear. Give me some time off the ship, and I can handle the whole thing by proxy. The only finger you'll have to lift will be the one accepting your credit transfer.
Take as long as you need.
I'll be back before you know it. What, no parade? Oh, not even a cake? How about at least mustering a good to see you for the guy holding your share of the credits?
I take it the auction went to plan?
I don't know whether to be flattered by the numbers. Your cut. Pretty good take, considering the expenses. The bidders really couldn't wait to take Tiresias off our hands.
What expenses?
Middlemen, venues, security, incentives, everything necessary to ensure a smooth transaction with half the underworld in one place. 3 pirate crews, 10 free traders, 2 exchange bosses, half a dozen huts, one I don't even remember crossing. Kept licking his lips. I think his name was Druga. It was quite the rogues' gallery. A lot of familiar faces. Brought back memories, let me tell you. You'll be pleased to hear I finished fencing those little Alderanian trinkets that came into our possession. Made a nice sum, even with the rush.
You're really starting to prove your worth.
Oh, I'm gonna have to teach you a thing or two about compliments and flattery. Have I mentioned how much pulling that little con has improved my mood? I think that auction put to bed any lingering doubts that Tiresias is dead and gone. And aside from knowing my new identity ought to stick, I'd almost forgotten how much I love a good scheme.
Fun and profit. What's not to like?
Getting shot at, for one, but working with you has made that pretty commonplace.
It's hard to work a proper hustle when you're on the run, chum. I've pulled more heists than cons in recent memory.
That was the kind of racket my former partner preferred. Simple, bold, effective. Used to argue about that a lot.
How'd you two part ways?
We had different ideas about where we were headed. Water under the bridge. My preference is to be long gone by the time anyone gets wise. That's a lot easier without bounty hunters breathing down my neck. It's about time I got back in the game. Can't afford to let myself get out of practice, after all. Let me tell you a little thing about opportunity.
Enlighten me.
Sometimes, when it knocks, you put it away for a rainy day. Take this group of fresh-off-the-shuttle Arcona I met at the Mossila spaceport before you showed up. I left those Arcona with a stellar impression of Geller rowing, helpful merchant, and earmarked them for a return trip once things died down.
What makes them good marks?
You know why they were traveling to a dump like Tatooine? Seems fresh water's hard to come by on Kona. These rubes heard about moisture farming on Tatooine and figured it was their ticket to riches. Fleecing these yokels will be like taking candy from a baby. The key is finding the right scheme.
You really enjoy seeing what you can get away with, don't you?
Oh, I suppose you threw your hat into the great hunt out of complacency. Moisture farmers aren't exactly rolling in credits, but a whole colony of them can add up. Remember those Arcona colonists I was telling you about? Well, I've got the perfect racket to skim a little profit off those moisture farming saps. Salt.
As in table salt?
Well, I'm not talking bath salts, considering water's a luxury good. Listen, I've got a theory. I used to know this spacey Arconan bagman back on Nar Shaddaa. Thought the guy was a spice head for the longest time. Turns out I was only half right. This guy's cravings were something else.
Your friend had some sort of reaction.
Can't say for certain, but I've got my suspicions. One night after making our handoff in some dive diner, he orders some garbage soup and dumps an entire shaker of salt into the bowl. Should have seen the way this guy went at the stuff before stumbling out of the place like its last call.
Your money's on these colonists having the same craving.
10 to 1 says there's something about salt that those wedgeheads can't resist. We're gonna sell those colonists the answer to all their woes, specially formulated and offered exclusively through Rowing Industries. If I'm right about how much Arcona love the stuff, our biggest problem will be keeping up the supply.